Chapter 24 Transcendence of Time and Space by Breath. All the techniques of dhyana or meditation are the perfect techniques to step into being and transcendence of time and space. One must perfect one of the techniques and follow it regularly. He will gradually succeed to the path of self-realization and will be able to step into being. All the techniques leads to emergence and are for to be beyond time and space. In meditation there are no mind and not even divisible mind. Mind is annihilated, no time concept and no awareness, but awareness or consciousness exists with discontinuity which leads to the oneness with the cosmos. No disintegration and separateness, total oneness with the cosmic awareness, and to become one with that supreme power is the final achievement by following one of the meditational techniques. Transcendence of time and space in meditation takes place. This is because of the fact that mind is annihilated in meditation, then mind is not aware of time. If sadhaka or aspirant in meditation is fully engrossed, track of time is disappeared. When he comes back to consciousness, then only he detects the unnoticed time lapse. It shows that he was in akal, that is beyond time. In other words, time was transcended in meditation. He was beyond time. Under these conditions, mind was thoughtless, mind was annihilated, there were no thoughts of any kind in his mind. It means there was no space to move thoughts in the mind. Thoughts move in mind since mind has memory of past and mind dreams of future. Being in the present during meditation, space gets restricted for movements of thoughts. In present, for single incoming and outgoing breath, there is restricted space for movement of thoughts. This shows that when breath is suspended in present in meditation or breath is very feeble, it does not have space for flow of thoughts. So, the space is too transcended in meditation. So, in meditation, when mind is annihilated, it shows there are no thoughts, flow of thoughts has been suspended, mind, buddhi or intellect, consciousness and ahankara have been merged. Thus, space for movement in mind is temporarily collapsed. So, time and space are transcended in meditation. There are various meditation techniques, but three techniques in general are followed, namely AUM technique, Gayatri Sandhya, and Udana Prana, that is life force technique. All these techniques are closely revolved around breath. Here intrinsic philosophy of meditation in the light of science as conceived has been highlighted. The following must be perceived deeply. Number 1. Ahankara and Chitta. Consciousness to become integral is the basic and foremost requirement. However, both must be manifested with subtle divine virtues. Particularly, ahankara is the motivation and decision-making faculty, and chitta or consciousness is the logical base. And these are the pros and cons of the decision-making faculty. One has mind, buddhi, that is intellect, chitta, consciousness, and ahankara before action is undertaken. And even after the action has been executed, after action there can be reaction in mind and intellect. Chitta, the consciousness, can manifest the reaction. Ahankara is the manifested consciousness and may be divisible or integrated consciousness. It depends on the reaction of mind and intellect after the action. Number 2. All the above four constituents, mind, intellect, consciousness, and ego, give the various capabilities to a human mind. Mind revolves around the Ichha Shakti. It revolves around the desires, their creation, ways and means, so as to fulfill all of them. Buddhi or intellect and chitta or consciousness revolve around jnana or knowledge. With accumulation of knowledge, help or assistance is rendered to accomplish desires created by mind, whereas ahankara or egoism is the kriya, the final action taken to execute the activity to fulfill desires. Without aham or ego, self, activity cannot be undertaken. Although activity has been desired, Knowledge is gathered, but without the force of ahem or ego, self of the jiva, it cannot be put into action, into accomplishment. Furthermore, it must be understood that mind is atomic in nature and is very subtle and mutative. The silence cannot enter into the human mind easily unless mind becomes greatest and enters into superconscious state. The moment it enters into the superconscious state, awareness goes and disappears. No more existence of mind remains, and only silence prevails. So, when there is silence, there is no mind. Mind is annihilated. No awareness remains. It is stateless state of being, superconscious and without consciousness and awareness. It is intuitive state, divine state of savikalpa samadhi, and one cannot remain there for a long duration. This state may come and go. This is the state with discontinuity. How it comes and goes? It is only the play of Almighty. It is a play of time and space. In this state, physical microcosm merges with macrocosm of the cosmos. This integrity is the stateless state of samadhi. Beyond time and space, if prolonged, it becomes non-return state to the awareness. It is then called nirvikalpa samadhi, a state of total non-returned emergence. Generally, it happens at the time of death. Number 3. Sandhya Gayatri is the technique which leads to take sadhaka up to the stage of emergence beyond time and space by gradual suspension of breath. Mind then becomes unmutative for a long time by just keeping dhyana or attention on the incoming and outgoing breath. As dhyana is continued, time comes when breath gets suspended as the gap between incoming and outgoing breath increases. Sadhaka is then with the spirit during this increased interval gap. This finally leads to an unmutative stage of mind, since mind gets its energy from the breath only. This develops the mind and raises it to the unaware and unconscious stage, which is beyond Maya and illusion. The silence and superconsciousness intuition, the stateless state, just pour in gradually by Almighty's grace. It is the state beyond time and space, a state of being. This is the achievement of Sandhya Gayatri sadhana, similar to the other techniques. Furthermore, it can be said that by negation of mind, buddhi or intellect, chitta or consciousness, and ahankara or ego, one is near to soul. Added to this, if consciousness is also diminished during meditation, there is ascent of soul to higher centers, and its mergence occurs with the supernal. One steps into being to be beyond time and space. This is the state of unison of microcosmic consciousness to the macrocosmic consciousness. Then there is no ego remaining. Ego gets totally nullified and disappears. In other words, in this stage, mind, consciousness, and ego are in unison. It is the disappearance state. It is the state of mergence with supernal. This is the state beyond feeling of any action. It is the state of being. In this stage, consciousness is manifested with divine qualities and egoism is disappeared. In this state, breath ceases to exist and suspended automatically. One can reach to the state with tranquil breath only. This is also achieved by Udana Prana technique. A man with haphazard and disturbed breath cannot reach even the vicinity of the higher consciousness. There are more than 70 techniques to control the breath that can calm down mind, body, and consciousness to make a common human being a spiritual. The spirituality in a life of a man is a purposeless purpose, or in other words, it is the highest purpose of life. This is governed by breath only. Number 4. To make progress in the spirituality, the basic requirement is the mental peace. For this, spiritual aspirant must maintain the tranquil breath, that is, the breath must come and go from both nostrils simultaneously. If this is maintained, one will feel relaxed and he will not be perturbed by fear and anxiety. Tranquil breath must be stable. It gives strength and increases Udana Prana in the human system, that is the prerequisite for the progress in spirituality. With tranquil breath, prana or life force ascends through Brahmanadi very easily with less effort. Most of the time, for horizontal activity, breath transacts only through senses of actions. However, by tranquil breath, blissful stage comes naturally without efforts. This leads to generate 10 types of nada in the system that makes the human body much healthier as compared to body that has disturbed and haphazard breath. Initially, some efforts are needed to establish the tranquil breath, but later on, flow of tranquil breath comes naturally through the human system. Tranquil breath negates the divisible bilateral consciousness. It gives one-pointed consciousness and concentration. Furthermore, tranquil breath is a divine, graceful breath. This gives silence to the mind and increases spiritual power, which is helpful in mergence with supernal. Moreover, silence fulfills the system with harmony. This gives holy bath, removes heterogeneous polarity of mind, and helps to be one with the universe. Even in crisis, it gives peace and negates all selfish motives. It may give siddhis to the sadhaka, and all selfish motives in him cease to exist. No subjective attitude remains in a sadhaka. He is always full of universal love and brotherhood. Sadhaka or spiritual aspirant finally leads to spiritual heights of cosmic skyness or mergence. One forgets that there is even cosmic consciousness since he becomes one with the cosmos. With higher spiritual conscious of sadhaka, nothing can happen wrong on horizontal plane even if he loses awareness on the horizontal plane in the mundane activities. In the higher plane of superconsciousness, even if he gets momentary awareness with the discontinuity of non-awareness, still he becomes or remains blissful with the grace of Almighty. Non-consciousness with discontinuity is bliss of Maya or illusion. It is itself a partial divine state. Having forgotten awareness at the highest plane of superconsciousness, even for a few moments, he becomes Sakshi Chaitanya from the state of Kutaksha Chaitanya that leads him finally to Para Chaitanya, superconsciousness or manifested consciousness. He is then in absolute silence, and the bliss he experiences in that stateless state is incomparable with any gain in the world. Similar experiences sadhaka gains with the AUM technique and other evolved techniques. In AUM technique, while recitation of AUM, M is prolonged longer than A and U. This takes the aspirant to the state of breath suspension and then automatic dissolution or disappearance of breath. This state leads him to transcend time and space and finally lead to mergence with absolute with discontinuity. So in short, any technique followed properly, whether Udana Prana technique, AUM technique or Sandhya Gayatri technique, sadhaka will ultimately experience the stateless state of incomparable bliss. His soul will merge in the supernal, and he will experience the state of absolute silence, being in Savikalpa or Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It is the state of being beyond time and space. He is in the timeless zone. Finally, he resumes back from this stage with manifested consciousness without egoism but with supreme subtle divine qualities, which prolongs his life with health and happiness along with immense wisdom. All this is achieved by the grace of breath. It is the mean to transcendence of time and space, and to be in the state of well-being.